I will call the November 18th Irmo Town Council meeting to order, and I will recognize Councilman Walker to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, please bless this council and decisions that we make tonight and guide us through your wisdom so that we may become one community in your eyes. Amen.
Amen.
Next item is reading of the minutes for November the 4th, 2014. Is there a motion for the minutes to be approved as written?
So moved.
And second.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of minutes being approved as written, do so with show of hands. Next item is the administrative briefing. Ms. Brown, anything you wanted to add?
Just a reminder that the Chamber's concert series finishes up this Thursday. At the park, the band is Royal Gay Trio. I do not know who they are, but
I think it's at 5:30 to 7:30 or something like that.
6 to 8.
it's supposed to start at 6 o'clock. They'll be open with drinks and wine and beer about 5:30.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Any questions of Mr. Brown?
Yeah, we received that letter from the school board requesting the annexation to go forward.
Yes, sir, I did.
And
They still would like to be annexed into the town.
is there anything we have to do? I mean, just put it back on the agenda or what?
We have to put it back on the agenda. We have to do a new ordinance.
You have to do a new ordinance?
The last one was died, so we have to come up with a new ordinance number and just start all over.
I thought it just didn't get a second. It was go through first reading. We go through first reading? Okay, I recall we went through first reading.
And we track them. We can't just go back and use an old ordinance.
Can you use the old petition? Or do they need to do a new?
You asked me, I don't think so, because it was signed by Dr. Hefner.
Dr. Hefner.
And he's still the guy with the authority to sign. I don't think
There's
that's
this witness by
required.
somebody that ain't there anymore. Does that make a difference or not make a difference? Or?
I will check tomorrow. I don't think so. But I'll make sure.
Okay. Any other questions? Next item is received communications. Any received communications? Anyone wants to share?
Yeah, I received a communication from one of our constituents about some pedophiles live on Doncaster. Chief, we have a list of all the sex offenders, predators in the the park area.
SLED operates a website that has a listing of all sex offenders, their addresses, and where they are, and they'll even put it on a map for you.
I mean, do you have a personal?
I don't have a handwritten list like that. I always reference.
I'm saying for the Irmo.
Yeah, I always reference the SLED website. It is the most accurate way to look at it because all the sheriffs report their information to SLED.
And that's a registered sex offender, right?
Correct.
Can you check around Doncaster and Denbeck and see whether if there's any registered sex offenders on that area?
On Doncaster Road?
Yeah, Doncaster and, was it Doncaster?
Probably Shetford.
Shetford?
There was one at one time on Shetford. There was. I'm not sure if he's or she or whoever, but there was one registered there. I don't know if he's still.
Well, it's that general area around the park there. I'm not sure if it was just Doncaster, Denbeck, Shetford, wherever. Give me a list of all those registered sex offenders on those streets. If there are any, if there isn't, you know. I didn't know that.
And I think the one that was on Shetford lived there before the park was built, so if I understand the law, then
Yeah, if we build the park after,
we lived there.
if they live there on January 1st, we build the park on January 2nd, they're allowed to live there.
Any other received communication? Next item is presentation by citizens. This is where, if you'd like to address Irmo Town Council on anything that's on the agenda tonight, it has to be something on the agenda, you may do so at this time. All we ask is you give us your name and address for the record. Anyone? Seeing none. Next item is unfinished business, third and final reading, ordinance 1412, to amend the Irmo Town Code, chapter 26, solid waste management. This has to do with the trash cans. Is there a motion for third and final reading?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Which one was that? Any discussion?
Can we read the ordinance now? It's been amended. I don't have a copy of it.
Yeah, it has, containers shall be placed at curbside no later than 7 a.m. on the day of collection. Containers shall be removed from the curbside no later than 7 a.m. on the following day. When not at curbside on the day of collection, containers shall be placed within 3 feet of the residence and not within 10 feet of the front door. Containers shall be kept in a manner so as to not create a fire, environmental, or safety hazard. Exceptions to the location of the container may be permitted in writing by the town administrator.
That's what we agreed on last
Last
time.
time,
We got it.
All the changes and stuff. So any more discussion? All in favor then of third and final reading of the ordinance 1412, do so with your hand. Next item is third and final reading of ordinance 1413 to amend the Irmo Town Code, chapter 11, rental property registration, section 1112, standards for rental unit, 10, grass height. This is where we were changing it from 12 to 6. Is there a motion for third and final reading?
So moved.
And a second? I'll second. Any discussion?
I will reiterate what I said in the past. I think that the 6 inches is too low. We're not making any reference here to the grass and those weeds that we talked about, those little spindly weeds that grow up overnight. I think 6 inches is too low. I cut my grass 4 inches. So if it grows 2 inches before I get to it the next weekend, I'm in violation. And I would venture that 90% of the people sitting here today would be too.
What about 8 or 10? Did we, I know we already discussed
Where
this.
we went
From 12.
Started at
12 to 8, and then we changed it from 8 to 6. And one thing too, I'll mention that someone told me what we might want to do is change it from grass height to lawn height. As far
Or
as
weed height.
Well, lawn, I think, would cover everything.
Well, that might be all right.
And then it covers what you're talking about there, but that's what I suggested.
But you still want to leave it at 6?
Well, I think like Rich said before, I mean, there's really no grass if it's over 4 inches. And the tallest one is St. Augustine, and it's really 3. So, I mean, that's,
The paper has listed as the lowest in the minutes.
I think, I read something, what's his name, it said, I think some of them just, say, 12 or 10 or whatever it was they had in there, I can't remember.
Somebody
I
called me
left it
about it, a newspaper, and they were shocked that we were going down to 6.
Yeah, I got a call too.
Yeah.
But, you know, I had said before, I realized the length of grass, and I have a centipede,
8 or 10.
and my centipede grows more than 4 inches, because that's where I cut it, and I generally cut 2 or 3 inches off of it. You know, and then you know, I get weeds in from neighbors or birds or whatever, and they just, they far exceed the 6 inches. And we were talking about those dandelions, you know, you go to sleep at night, wake up next morning, you got a yard full of them. And they're already at 8 to 10 inches. So where is it? And then the next issue is we're creating something here that's, and I know we're trying to give some teeth to the code, but now we're gonna have a code enforcement officer that's gonna go out, and they're gonna look at that, and they're going to issue a abatement notice to take care of it, and I'm gonna get an abatement notice, and I'm gonna take care of it in 10 days that they give me, 10, 15. Chief, you can correct me if I'm wrong with the length of time there, but they're gonna hang an abatement notice on the house 2 doors down that's owned by a mortgage company in California, and it's not only gonna be 12 inches now, it's gonna go to 24, and there's nothing gonna be done to them. But we're gonna be carrying it to the nth degree with our citizens, but we're gonna let the ones, and I submit to you, the ones you got problems with now is not our citizens,
I think you're right.
it's rental property that's controlled by,
And this one only addresses rental property, not, I wouldn't say the regular citizens, so this one, yeah, because it is only for the rental property. But we haven't addressed, say, a residential, a regular, I wouldn't say residential.
you telling me that there is nothing for residential?
Well, the residential, I think, still just
Because I know a
says,
handful of people that's got abatement notices to cut their grass.
the residential, I think, says unsightly and
It's
unsanitary.
unsightly.
That's what,
Okay.
That's an interpretation.
That's an interpretation too.
I don't like 6.
I voted against it last time, I voted against it this time.
I think 8 would be better, and I don't know why, I just don't like 6. 6 is,
what, are you gonna change it? Or amend
yeah,
it?
I do. I don't think we can enforce 6. I think it's gonna be, I'd
Well,
rather have it
we
as
can
an 8.
enforce 6, and use it as 8 or 10 or 12, or whatever we put
I was
down.
ready to put me in
But-
jail.
The 12's not
More
good,
than
that's
that.
good, that's why.
Well, the 12's not good,
I
but
know,
8,
because I'm
8 is
unsightly.
reasonable to me.
That's whatever he decides on.
So you're making a motion to
I'm
amend?
making a motion to amend to 8 inches.
Second.
So any discussion? Now we're at
Yeah, we're at 8.
8.
That would require a ruler.
I'm gonna go back to the same thing
Well,
we
they're all
were discussing.
required.
Ruler issue.
All right, 8 by 11,
Ruler
she's no good
issue.
paper.
As Bob
Rules,
just,
rulers.
you know, mentioned, and he's heard me rant about this before. The unsightly, unsanitary, now you're gonna bring a citizen in because a person, a code enforcement officer, in their infinite wisdom, is gonna decide something is unsightly, mainly because maybe somebody down the street complained, and they feel like they have to do something. And I don't want them not doing their job, don't get me wrong, but they're gonna decide it's unsightly, and abatement notice is gonna be issued, and our citizenry is gonna be brought in here to the judge and either fine or whatever leverage that they can make on it. And again, you've got your California mortgage company that's sitting out there with it up knee-high, and nothing's gonna be done. Now, if it goes on for a year or two, we have a record of after a year or two, we'll go out and cut it and charge that back as a lien. But we're not in that business either.
No, you're right.
Well, as far as my understanding, when it gets to our courtroom, it's unsightly and unsanitary. A lot of them get thrown out because nobody can decide what is unsightly and unsanitary, so. the
Then why do we,
We ought to change it. I mean, we should
That's
change
right.
it. We ought to change it to 8-2, or 6, or whatever we're gonna change it to.
Something that can be
Uh,
measured.
Yeah.
that's right, take it, you know, the
But I think we need to
code
start on
enforcement
this one
officer
and
getting
then
beat up.
we can go to the next one and change it. And I agree with I mean, we start cutting that grass normally, I wanna say within a month if somebody's vacant and all like that, don't we? As far as taking care of the front yard.
we don't jump on it that quick.
Nah.
I mean, you know, it's right on the corner of a main street, and we spot it right away, but there are some that get hidden way back in the neighborhood we might not find.
I mean, as far as when people call us and tell us and complain.
Right, well, first thing we do is try to track down the owner. We don't just run out there and cut
Yeah,
it.
And that can take 30 to 60 days.
It takes about 6 weeks, because they have a process we go through, with
Right.
abatement and contacting and trying to get all the right people to finally say, hey, come out and cut your grass. And when we can't get anybody and the grass keeps growing, then we'll go out and cut it and put a lien on the house. But it's normally 3 months, maybe 4 months after we first identify it.
It takes a while, yeah.
Yeah, we've kept that poor code enforcement officer busy,
Yeah.
you know, and all that time, there's other contractors coming in here building decks and leaving and never, that they would have been catching if they had not been fooling with grass height.
so we're amended to A. Any more discussion? Ready to vote? And as far as that other thing, grass height, does we want to leave that grass height or amend that to lawn height?
Lawn height's fine. I think that's better.
What's the difference?
That's right, explain to me the difference.
Well,
I
weeds
understood
pop
when
up
Marty said,
like that.
grass height would be the height of the centipede. Lawn height would be the weeds too. I just told you that, don't you believe it,
Yeah.
Paul?
And that's what they were telling me, that lawn would cover everything in the lawn, not just the grass.
And we're gonna make that true for our homeowners as well?
Well, we'd have to do another ordinance for
Gotta do
change
another-
our
and we
ordinance
ought
for
to.
that, because that, I mean, I think
It ought to
we
be
should.
the same
if we're going-
thing.
Yeah,
I think it
but
should
I
be
think
good.
it'd be another process. We get this one through, then we could do that one, whatever.
Let's make a motion and amend it, we want to change it to lawn.
Yeah. Anybody want to change that?
So we're not talking about grass, we're talking about any kind of vegetation on the,
Come out.
on the.
Yeah,
Yeah, whatever's growing in the lawn.
okay, I'll amend it to lawn.
All right, so.
You gonna take up the amendments individually, or?
Yeah, we'll do this one and see if it gets, so we got another amendment to change grass to,
The first one passed?
well, we'll vote on this and then we'll come back and vote on that one. Is there a second on this one? To change it?
I'll second lawn.
All right. Any discussion on that? All in favor then of amending it from grass to lawn, do so with show of hands. All opposed? Now, so that one's done, grass to lawn. Now we have the other amendment to change it from 12 to 8. All in favor of changing, actually changing it from 6 to 8.
6 to 8.
Because it was already changed from grass. So we're changing it from 6 to 8. All in favor of changing the 6 to 8 inches, do so with show of hands. All opposed? So, where we're at
What was the vote
now,
on that one?
huh?
What was, I
4 to
didn't,
I
1.
opposed it.
you opposed, Barry was.
4. So now we're at third and final reading, and what we ended up with is standards for residential rental unit lawn height amended from 12 inches, or from 6 inches to 8 inches,
And from grass to lawn, yeah.
and from grass to lawn.
Okay.
So all in favor of that, do so with show of hands. All opposed? All right, the next item is new business appointment of orchestra administrator. Is there a motion for appointment of orchestra administrator? And we got a letter. First, we got 2 letters, yeah. We got one from the Lexington Medical Center Irmo Orchestra Festival, where they are recommending Susan Hooch to be retained for the 2015 Lexington Medical Center Orchestra. And then we also got one from Councilman Harvey
Mr.
Hooch.
Mayor, I request to be excused.
Okay. Where he's recusing himself from voting on the contract for Susan Hooch. So is there a motion for approval, or is there appointment? Let's start with the appointment first. Is there appointment for someone to be the orchestra administrator?
Yeah. Make a motion that we approve the recommendation of council of the Orchestra Commission.
Second.
For Susan, you said?
Yeah,
The letter that came from,
Orchestra Commission.
any discussion? I will recognize y'all if y'all want to go. Any discussion?
Well, I'll add that I know there's been some discussion in the past several meetings about the structure of it, but overall, I believe that Ms. Hoops is doing a good job with administering the structure, and should continue.
Did you want to say anything?
Are you looking for yourself on TV?
I'm waiting for him to run the meeting.
No, he said that, yes.
Oh, I thought you made the motion.
I made a motion, I mean,
Okay.
you seconded it?
Um,
What is the resolution?
Well, the other thing I want to add is I know we've discussed it many times in a couple of years in regards to whether it's allowable or not allowable. I still stand that it is not allowable and part of nepotism, but that's my opinion on that. The one problem with this is that, you know, we have questions sometimes and can't seem to get answers. I was trying to find out some information today on a report that we had been given, and I think I asked Bob some questions, and he tried to call Kirk Luther and ask Kirk Luther in regards to that, and we couldn't get any answers from Kirk.
Answers from what?
Answers to some questions I had about some addition and subtraction on one of the forms that we got. And
Is this directly related to the ministry?
it's related to, yes, I think in that position, it was a form that she turned in. A form that she gives us on the money, that shows how much ticket sales, what we pay back to vendors, what's left over, what we deposit and all like that. And, you know, it just seems that,
Did you get your answer?
no.
What was the question?
The question was, according to the form that we got from Ms. Hoops, there was $102,000 worth of tickets sold. So there was $102,000 worth of cash generated at Oak Street through the sale of tickets. There was about $80,000 of that deposited, and then there was about $7,700 of that we have vouchers for. There was about
$7,700?
Yeah, there's about 14,000 that we don't have vouchers for, so I was just trying to find out where we can get those vouchers from and where we can get that paperwork from to explain all that.
And
Just
it was
reviews.
cash, and there's no reconciling it. I mean, it's gone, and nobody knows where it is.
And Kurt was like, well, call Susan. I'm like, well, we're calling you, you're the Oak chairman, you find out the information and read it back to us, but it's just got, to me, just, you know, I don't know where it's going, but
We need to.
I need some answers, and
Did you call, you said you called Bob, what did you tell him about?
he called
I
Kurt.
talked to Kirk, and Kirk, you know, didn't have an answer, didn't know, and he said the same thing, told me to call Susan, but said, you know, have the mayor call Susan.
Our responsibility is with the Oak Street Commission. They want to hire somebody, fine, but they should be able to talk to that person, get the information, call us back and all like that. If they can't do that, he
Well, I
can't
mean,
do
you
that.
blindsided her last minute, I mean, you expect to respond immediately, I mean,
No, no, she
quick.
filled out the form.
Yeah.
I've seen the form, because it came into accounting, and it was just a normal form, but, you know,
So
she knows it undoubtedly.
I just think if we were doing it here,
So why did you call Susan Hoops?
I don't know that I need to call Susan Hoops. I think I'd have to call our town administrator, or I can call Kirk Luther, who is the chairman of the Oak Street. That's all I need to do. You know, I don't know. But again, it goes back to, if we were doing it here, all I had to do is call Bob.
What's that got to do with the point that Susan Hoop said?
Well,
That there's $14,000 missing.
and can't get an answer.
Allegedly.
Yeah, well, it's,
But I mean,
No, it's not
it's there.
allegedly. The
It just needs some receipts or something to show, I don't know, to show whatever. We just need more
show
cash.
what?
What happened to
What
it?
happened to the $14,000?
Yeah.
And you said you called him and he didn't get back to you, or you didn't get an answer?
Kurt couldn't respond. I mean, I can look at the numbers and do multiplication and come up
But you
with
said this is a
something.
receipt, this is a form that Mrs. Hoots filled out for the
Right.
ownership. And you don't want to call her directly, so you want to ask something.
No, I don't think it's my responsibility to come here. I think it's Kurt Luger's responsibility or whatever. But again, it just goes to, we got too many hands pointing back and forth. Kurt says this. You know, if they want to hire somebody, that's fine. But if they want to hire somebody, they need to be responsible and accountable and come back to us with answers instead of going back and forth with all this and just, and again, if it wasn't in that environment, I think we could get an answer. Just this environment creates a little trouble that it's creating.
Right.
That's what I mean.
This report, was it a final report that she sent? It was a final report.
Have you seen a final? I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it, so.
It's one that she gives to Kim to show what we write vendors, what amount of money and got why.
You got a copy of the final report, Kim?
Yes, sir.
Can I see a copy of it, please?
But anyway, that's why I just think it's a bad situation. We just-
You're saying it's a bad situation, but you're the only one that's seen this report that's making accusations,
So
and
I'm
I
not
haven't seen
one
it.
that looked at it and asked the question and said, hey.
But
why
you,
these numbers-
nobody's seen the
That's not
report
all.
but you.
That's not all. The Oak was out of money, and now we're dealing with
You
public
keep saying
money.
it's out of money, and I don't see that either, but
Because you've got $8,000 left in the bank, and you got to finish paying the administrator, and you are broke. That's out of money. The problem is, we now use public money, which should be accountable to the public the same way our town funds are. And we're using corporate money as well, and we ought to be accountable to them. You know, someone gives us money for the festival, we ought to be able to tell them, this is what it was spent for. This is what we did with it. Here's a sheet that says all the expenses and how it was done. And we can't do that. That's my concern, and it's,
Can we do it now, though?
no,
We cannot do it now.
We
One
could
forward. We could not do
if
it.
Bob and Kim handled it. It'd be the same way as the town, the exact same way. And we're so good at it, we're way past transparent. You can find out anything you want to. I want everything to be that way. And it should be. And we can start at this level. You know, when you get to the size of the city of Columbia, nothing they've got balances, transparent, nothing. And when you get up to the state level, and forget it, you know, there's none of that. But we could do it. And
this is
that's
where
all
the
I'm saying, until we
$14,000
know how
This
much
is
money we
$14,000.
need to spend, how much money, you know. I think we ought to handle it by the town, at least for a while, until
If
we
you
know
take
what this is about.
That number.
This is serious. I mean, this
That
is
number.
real money that we can't find, that we don't know what happened to it.
That.
If it were $50, if it were $500, I wouldn't care. But 14,000?
This is the first I've heard of this now, so.
me too.
And there's no accusation here. I think this is, you know, we just don't know
Here.
on that report where it is. Good, they're adding it up.
It was $102,002.
Right, and then there was deposits made of $80,293. We wrote a check.
Hold up, man, it's right here in black and white, and you pull these numbers, you pull these numbers out your butt. Where,
No, that's the
I'm
deposit.
looking at the numbers right here.
There's
I'm looking at
102.
the numbers right here, it's not the right
Listen
numbers.
to, because he's,
Those are the tickets. That doesn't have
That's
anything to do with the
That's what he's
deposit.
saying, he said this is the total number of tickets sold.
The total
Right.
number of tickets
Right.
that she said was,
So if you take those two and add them together,
Yeah, 102, that's what you got, okay.
and then we made deposits of that amount, which is $80,293, I think that's correct, or something like that. And then we paid $500 in cash to Stevie G, and we paid $72.45 in cash to the sheriff's department.
Okay, where's that?
It's on one of the other reports that shows what the expenses were, which leaves.
Is this the final report from oversight?
So that's what she gives me, and then they brought in the cash vouchers that
Yeah.
add up to what we paid in cash to the police officers.
So you're saying it should equal 102 or more?
No, I'm saying those two numbers equal 100.
Right.
That's the ticket sale.
Right.
Then we deposited $80,293 in cash in the bank from the ticket sales. We paid $500 to Stevie G in cash, and we paid in cash $72.45 to the police, which leaves a cash difference of $13,964, whatever I got there, that we don't have vouchers for. We don't have any kind of paperwork.
And it's cash, it's lost,
Yeah.
right, you know, it's not like it's a check.
That's
I hate to put Bob on the spot, but as a town hall, Bob, you have reconciled, you have looked it over, and that's the bottom line.
We do all the deposits, we cut out the checks
And that report was sent to you when?
right after the orchestra.
The day
I don't know
after.
when we get it, Kim, about
The
a couple
day
weeks after.
They bring it to me Monday, and I cut checks that day.
And I've been looking at these reports, going through it, trying to figure out what did those really make, what did it really lose, yada, yada, all that junk. Then it dawned on me that I needed to look at the ticket sales minus the cash, minus the deposit. Because some of the numbers, and that's when I came across that number, and I'm trying to figure out, well,
So
what are we missing?
where's the ledger that has the police and Stevie G?
That's on those reports that,
You have a
remember
copy of
last
that,
week
Kim?
we had the
I have a
meeting.
copy of all of it, yes, sir.
Okay, can I see that?
Well, you can look at this all you want to on your own
Well,
time.
you obviously had a chance to look at it, and
And I
now you're
did,
making
and you've
accusations.
had 2 or 3
So I
weeks
wanna
to
look
look
at,
at
no,
it.
I didn't have 2 or 3 weeks. You just found out about it 2 seconds
Are we
ago.
ready to vote?
We're ready, but I think we ought to furnish him with all the things.
Yeah, we can give him all the documentation, if he's got it, just like I've got it.
Yeah, I mean, you had it for a while, you know.
No, I hadn't.
You just
I got
said
that
it.
yesterday. I looked at the other forms that they
You
gave
had
us.
it,
at
you
the
had it
meeting.
yesterday, we didn't have it. Did you have it yesterday, Paul?
No.
You had it at the meeting the other day of all the stuff. So we're ready to vote. All in favor then?
I'm not ready to vote yet.
Well, you can't call the question?
Call the question.
All right.
You have to vote on the question, whether or not the question is,
No, we don't.
I'm not ready to do it yet. I'm still in discussion. You can go for the question, then. you have to-
All in favor then of the appointment to the Orchestra Administrator, do so with show of hands.
Genius. You gotta call for the question first. then you
Kathy,
can
you?
vote.
All opposed? Motion fails for lack of majority. Next item,
Excuse me,
next
point of
item.
order, man.
Huh?
You can't,
You can look at that paperwork we got 2 weeks ago and do your own multiplication. You can look at that thing there and, you know, all I'm asking is for some information to explain the difference. And I think, again, Kurt Luther could have supplied it, but for whatever reason, chose not to. And
but that's not, you're mixing two different things. I mean, you're saying that.
no, it's, well, I'm not gonna vote for it because there's just too many changes
This
of
is-
command in between trying to get an answer out of somebody.
That's
and
Marty's
at the same
thing.
time.
My thing is
Okay,
public money.
so who?
So next item
Who do
is,
you recommend then?
no one.
I think the town ought to have it.
Presentation by citizens. This is where anyone who would like to address Irmo County Council on anything, regardless of whether it's on the agenda or not, may do so at this time.
Bob,
Oh, yes?
do you want to go get Mr.
Oh. All we ask is you give us your name and address for the record. Anyone who would like to address Irmo County Council?
Can y'all hear me? I don't need this, do I? Do I need this, Kathy? I don't think so.
I here.
Okay, I'm Elizabeth Keller. I live at 300 Waltham Abbey Road, Waltham, Abbey, Abby Road, and the address is Columbia 29212, but I live in Irmo, in the neighborhood of Coatesworth. You got it? Okay. I have actually two things to say I didn't know I was going to. I want to talk about my backyard pickup and the contract that was let. Last March, I went to my family doctor and I'm handicapped. So I qualified, he made out the prescription for backyard garbage service. Now, poor Vi and Renee at Town Hall will tell you that almost every week I have to call about something not being picked up. I don't know why they have to go through this torment, but something is not picked up. Either the little trash sticks that I try to pick up. I have alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency. My parents were nice enough to leave me that, which is lung disease, and I use oxygen at night, and I have home health care. So if anybody qualifies, I do. Sometimes I see that they don't. Sometimes it's the next day. I have a lot of supplies that I put in the box. Of course, the needles are put in a safety thing that are put in the front that's picked up, but other supplies. I've worked many contracts. I've taught school for 30 years, and sometimes I taught GED private contracts. I taught a private contract, or I taught big contracts for extra money. When they let a contract, we always had a contract manager that checked and made sure that we did our job properly. If we didn't, we were gig money. I remember when we made $8 an hour teaching GED. I taught for Richland District 1, but my job was at Midlands Tech. But here's the deal. We had a contract manager who went over the line items of the contract. I don't understand how this contract manager is not gigging this company big money for not doing their job. Now, Vi is wonderful. She answers the phone, and when I say, you're not going to believe this, I'm actually sorry for her, and I want to know, I know we pay for garbage service. I live in the town. I know I've been president of the Homeowners Association. Now it's going to be 5 times. I don't think I can do it. That's my second thing I want to say, and I'm going to make it brief. It's cold outside. But the contract, I don't know. I know they let a contract. This is the way it used to be. And they had a contract manager who, whoever it is, the administrator of the contract, when they mess up, they are gigged in some way. If they continue to do so, they fire them. That's how it used to be. It's taxpayers' money. You want to talk about being I was never late, even though I realized that there are going to be infractions. But it's taxpayers' money. I can't get out there and patrol them. I went outside and waved down the trash people one time. I pick up sticks. I do the best I can. And they screeched and backed up. Now, if you don't give service to handicapped people, that's fine. I never thought I'd be in this situation. I've lived there 40 years. Don't want to be. But when I went to the town meeting, Sandra Oliar, who is president of Coatesworth Homeowners Association, has lung cancer. She asked me, and I know, Kathy, it's awful, if I would help her until she got well. I pray she gets well. I said, this will be a lot of times I've been the president, I don't know that, but I said yes. And I said, I have to go to town hall anyway. I have said to Vi, even last week, the recyclables, which I put my boxes that they send of my infusion equipment, I pay $176,000 every 9 weeks is what I'm billed out. I'll be glad to bring that to you. They don't pay it. all of it, but pay a large majority. Alpha One is very expensive. There's a second part to this, but we won't do this tonight. I'll be back, hopefully. But anyway, Elma and I used to come to presentation by citizens all the time. April Simon would be sitting over there and I'd have my mug in the paper. I don't want that anymore. Thank goodness we don't have neighbors. But what I'm saying is, I'd like to know who the contract manager is. That's a matter of public record, I suppose. Contracts hadn't changed that much. I retired in 2005. Why this contract is not made, I don't know how to word this anymore. When I taught them under a contract, sometimes single item contract, sometimes I've bid it. I've taught under big contracts, but usually I just bid was a single bidder. Maybe it's all changed. Maybe they don't have to do anything. Maybe they can just do whatever they want to now. Not accusing anybody of stealing, not accusing anything. Just don't understand how they get by with it. That's what I'm asking. When I went to hear about Sandy, which was the meeting last Monday night, when she asked me to please come to the meeting, she had to pick my brain about something. She said, Kathy, you oftentimes attend the meetings. They really haven't had a meeting since last summer. I thought it maybe had disbanded. She mentioned that they don't clean up around the truck, they don't do this, don't do that. I didn't tell her why I was coming. I just said, okay, because I'm not watching the front of my house, they come to the back. But I don't want to call don't think I should have to, based on the money that this contract is being paid. I don't know how much it is. One time I taught for Midlands Tech out at Fort Jackson, and the contractors out there for the porta potties and all that kind of stuff made big money. But boy, they watched them. Federal contract is big money. And let them mess up and see what happens, because everybody's waiting to bid those big contracts. I know a little bit about it.
I agree with some of it. Bob, Vi does a wonderful job. She really does. But is there somebody you could contact to take care of this?
But not just me. This contract was let. Somebody is taking the money. Somebody let this contract and is not patrolling it, is what I'm saying. There got to be line items that they have to do. In other words, if I bid a contract for Irmo, somebody's got to watch me. I could not show up, just like they're doing. We're going right on since March now, Kathy. That's unheard of. Because I don't know what y'all are paying for the contract.
A lot.
Okay, well, they're not doing their job. And it's Irmo's responsibility to make them do so. I think I can find out what the contract is. It's public. I pay it. So
Bob will have that information.
Is he Bob?
Now, is it
This is
300 walkers? Is that correct?
Yes, but there are lots of handicapped people. And I cannot be the only one calling in. That is not possible. I've worked too many contracts and I've seen it. Everybody wants a federal or a government contract.
Well, we do have a
Everybody.
contract with advanced disposal, and I think it's like 5 years, 7 years, or some kind of term.
Yeah, we started in 2002 with them.
Okay, and
And
I'm
the reason that we didn't pay $200 a year was because we don't have the clause that would allow us to.
But I mean, it's for so many years, and then
Yes.
it's like a renewable thing after that.
They are.
Yeah, I mean, it's mainly up to us to stay on top of.
Okay, and it's up to, do you have line items in this contract of which they're supposed to go by, like everybody does?
Well, we used to, and I don't know if it's still in there or not. There was one time we had a penalty that if they didn't
Oh, yeah.
pick up by a certain time, and we could charge them so much of the trash can that they missed. So we gave them, I'm gonna say 24 hours or something to come do that. We have had some problem with the behind the home, because I know the house right over here behind us, she calls about once a month, once every other month or something like that.
Okay.
And hers is beside the home, or whatever they call it, backyard pickup.
The contract, let me ask you this, contracts are supposed to be made available to citizens. That is the law.
Yeah,
Still is, because my
Yeah.
contract with GED for Richland District 1 and the contracts at Fort Jackson are made available to everybody, because everybody wants it. They want to bid the contract. Who is the contract manager? Who does the line items?
I guess, wouldn't it, as far as,
You're welcome to come pick up a copy of the contract.
And
anytime you
who's,
want.
but who's the contract manager? Who's supposed to do the line items?
That would be the mayor and the council.
Oh, you don't just
or
have
Bob or
one?
Queen.
Well, the council approved the contract way back when.
Yeah, we approve it, and then Bob kind of is the day-to-day person.
Who has the ability to find them or get rid of them because they're not following the line items?
The council.
Yeah, we'd have to look at it and make a decision that we're gonna either void it out or give them a second
No one
chance.
person has the authority to dump the garbage contractor.
Okay, let's say that they don't follow the line items of the contract, so the citizens are not getting what they paid for. Who has the right, there's flexibility there that you can put up with them at taxpayers' expense for as long as that you, y'all just
No,
let them?
The clause in their contract is when I get a call from a concerned citizen on Wednesday, they have until Friday to go correct it. And normally they do. So then we're going on to the
So you
next
can
week.
keep on calling them for the 5 years that they are.
Well, we talk with their manager about once a quarter because he comes down from North Carolina. And that is our biggest problem is backyard pickup because everything's gone automated. And they got these trucks that go up and pick everything up. Well, every time they change drivers or sometimes they got lazy drivers, and I get to call the manager and he's got to go find the driver because the driver didn't want to get out of the truck and walk behind the house and get the garbage.
Every
bring it
week
back.
though, you might, what, do y'all have an amendment clause in
It
yours?
should be every week.
It's every week.
See, I mean, I have only heard your name once before, so. I mean, I know
Since
five must be-
March. I've been doing this since March. And
It's
y'all,
not just you, Miss Elizabeth, aren't there others?
there are
Yes.
many others.
Yeah.
So you don't have an amendment clause that you can give them money, that'll stop them. You need to write an amendment clause, because that's the law.
We can make
Party
an-
horn?
We might make an amendment. to
You
that.
can.
They want to
Just
agree
have
to
him
it.
come
I've already
here
researched
at their
this.
meeting.
I've researched it. You cannot do this. This is not legal.
I'll call him, I got a number here. Give him a call.
Give us another week or two, I think.
An amendment clause is legal. You cannot do this. This is not legal. I should not have to call every week.
Right.
No, you're right.
And others do too. I've already researched this. This is not, you cannot take taxpayers' money and have, make a handicapped person have to call every week. Can't be done.
Got to be true.
It is true. I know about contracts. Unfortunately, I liked them. I wanted to bid them. They're great. Good way to steal from people. Like it very much. One more thing. I want to go on the agenda at some point in time. Right now, it's just too cold for me. I got to get home. Sandra asked me, I don't want to do this, but Sandra asked me would I go back, maybe you can talk to the crowd. We're not going to do this again until after Christmas, have a meeting. Sandra's going through chemo and radiation. The last thing I want to do is get out at night and that kind of stuff. But talk about some of Coatsworth's problems with ordinances, with the ordinance people. As I said back in 2001 when my picture was smeared on neighbors, which I felt as good then as I do now, we don't have a covenant. We don't have 100% of the people having to pay dues. We haven't had a membership drive in a long time. Ella can vouch for that. About the neighborhood, we don't want to tell on people. It always got out that we were telling on everybody. So that's for another day. Is that an agenda thing you do now, or you just do, how do you do that? I don't know how anymore.
It might be good to meet with code enforcement officers, and we have, how many, Brian, two?
Three.
Three. And I think go over them with them, because they would be the most help, I think.
Yeah, they could come to y'all's, if you set up a homeowner association meeting, we could have code enforcement come over there.
Now, I realize that I know exactly where the houses start and stop that are in Lexington County. I know where the trouble is. The ordinances have changed. I'm trying to I haven't had time since Monday to look it over and see how it's changed. It's changed drastically since Elma and I had an ordinance book. It's so different now, and it's so much stricter than it was before.
The officers know. They know the ordinance, and then you need to know them. So
Yes,
you
I do.
Yeah. And
But like I said, I hope Sandra gets well and comes back. It's lung cancer. It's bad. And if we don't have many young people in the neighborhood that even know about the homeowners association. So hopefully we'll get young people. We old sick people can't hardly do it anymore. But I would like to know about the amendment and a change to this ordinance, to this letting this contract, because that's unheard of, that somebody has to call. In fact, it's not done. It's just not done. And handicapped people shouldn't have to go out, peep in their their trash can, close their gates, and then go call Porvi. It's just not legal. It's just not. And you can amend anything at any time, or fire them. Everybody wants a contract. They're waiting in line. I thank y'all for listening, and I want a copy. Yes, I do. And
We can have one for you if you want to come by one day this week, Bob.
that's fine. And like I said, I just I know that they do it all the time. And I think when the contractor hears this, that there's going to be an amendment, and I don't know, I could research how that's done. It'd take me 1 minute to call and find out about a government contract. 1 minute about how you amend it, but I'm sure you can look that up. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank
Ms.
you. Anyone else would like to address Irmo Town Council?
Good evening, Jacqueline Butt with Keep the Midlands Beautiful. I just wanted to report that our recycling event was a well-attended event, even though it was a little cold. We had over 407 cars that showed up. Those cars were mostly packed to the rims. We had 245 Richland County residents, 156 Lexington County residents. I don't have totals back from the vendors. 5R will send me a total for tonnage, as well as Shredder Us. We had a great turnout for tires and scrap, as well as Bio Joe came, so we had a lot of home cooking oil as well, cooking oil that part of those portions will go back to District 5 Foundation. So it was a great event. I want to thank the Chief of Police coming out using his big muscles to help us unload. And also Councilman Youngin, who came out and donated some stuff to the scrap metal. And I think it was a great event. Looking for a new vendor. 5R is not coming into South Carolina anymore, so I'll be looking for a new e-waste vendor. But my phone's been ringing off the hook Monday and Tuesday this week. When are we having that e-waste event? So always people are wanting to do electronics waste. So thanks so much for being a great partner. We really look forward to having these events here in Irmo, because it goes for both counties. A lot of times when we hold them in other places, it's only for Lexington residents or Richland County residents. So this is a great crossover. So I want to thank you so much for being a great partner to Keep the Midlands Beautiful. Can't wait to see you at the gala.
Thank you.
Good evening, George Glassmeyer, 100 Denbeck Road. I want to talk about a couple things. I really want to talk about the grass height issue, and I wasn't aware that all these amendments were going to be made, and you probably didn't either before you got to that issue, but some thoughts occurred that I want to kind of toss at you folks. Not at all to be critical, Mr. Hoots. I'm just trying to understand. Noticed when the amendment came up to amend it from 6 to 8, you voted against that, but I understood that you wanted to make it 8, so I'm a little confused. I'm just trying to understand your thinking
I
on
was
that.
really wanting to leave it at 12.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand your thinking on that. Okay. A couple of suggestions. I heard that one of the problems with rental properties is sometimes the owner of that rental property is in California or elsewhere. Have you considered the possibility of enacting an ordinance that requires an owner of a rental home to have a local agent that resides either in Lexington or Richland County? So therefore you've got somebody that you can go after, somebody that you can lay an abatement notice on, and somebody you can charge criminally with a code violation if it gets to that point.
I think we're referring to foreclosures at the banks, so I don't know.
So it's not so much an active rental, an active landlord, but okay, a foreclosure situation, and that's going to be hard. Okay,
Yeah.
that's going to be hard.
You can generally find those because people are paying their rent sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, but if it's vacant though, it's a foreclosure. Yeah, and if they're paying rent to somebody, it's probably somebody local. Okay, all right. So much for that. Another thought that occurred, and I started thinking about the grass height, and you could certainly consider making this an amendment maybe in the future, is decide on whatever height you want, be it 6 inches, 8 inches, whatever. And if it's above that, then it's in violation. But enacting the ordinance that to comply with the violation, you have to cut it 2 inches below the target height. So that if you make it 8 inches and somebody's got 9 inches, if they're in violation, all they have to do is cut off 1.25 inches and they're good to go, at least for that moment. But the next day it's going to be too tall again. So if you make the corrective height to be lower than the target, then you've got some breathing room and they're not going to be in violation the next day, which in part addresses your weed concern. So, you know, maybe think about that as an alternative.
I think we got to bring them both together, for both rentals as well as.
Oh, I think you need consistency. Otherwise, you've got, you know, grass at different heights down the same street with rental and homeowner. Yeah, I would support that. Yeah, and you need to have equal enforcement for everybody. I mean, you know, if the rental guy says, well, the guy that lives next door owns his house, how come he doesn't have to cut it because he's not a renter? That makes no sense to me, because you're not trying to discriminate between renters and non-renters, but you want the total image and appearance to be the same. Okay, thank you for that. Now I want to talk, kind of change gears here a little bit, because, ma'am, you and you gentlemen, you four gentlemen, are elected officials and you're public servants, and you're my elected officials and my public servants. I expect you to demonstrate a high standard of personal conduct and ethical conduct, which certainly is going to include, in my view, that you pay your taxes and comply with the law. Well, it would seem from evidence I've obtained that one of our councilmen, Mr. Walker, is not doing that, and that's a great concern to me. In the past week, in fact, I printed this off this afternoon, according to the Lexington County Register of Deeds office, Mr. Walker, the state of South Carolina Department of Revenue has placed tax liens on property that's in your name in excess of $17,000 for unpaid sales taxes. That concerns me for 3 reasons. First of all, as I said, I expect all of you to pay your taxes because that's the proper thing to do, especially for a public servant. The second reason that concerns me, Mr. Walker, and at any time here, Mr. Walker, if you feel you want to respond to anything I say, don't hesitate to interrupt me. I'd love to hear from you. The second reason that concerns me, Mr. Walker, is over the years, you've been very quick to spend my tax dollars, but yet you don't seem to be willing to pay your taxes, and that distresses me. And I'll talk about the third reason in a moment why that bothers me. And I've got a printout of this if anybody's interested in that. The next thing that is of concern to me, you'll recall, Mr. Walker, back in an October meeting, I asked you for your response to the information that I'd received that you had cut a deal with the Okerstrut Commission, or with the Okerstrut Committee or Susan Hoots, to get a waiver on your booth fee, your vendor booth fee at the Okerstrut, and during the October meeting you denied that. During the last meeting, when I confronted you with both documentary and testimonial evidence that there was such a deal, you were silent about that and wouldn't respond to my suggestions that indeed you had cut a deal, and yet subsequent to that you admitted that there was a quote-unquote trade-off to a reporter with the Irmo News. Now, as a result of my investigation in that, I obtained 3 documents from either the town and or Mrs. Hoot's office, that documentation that you apparently submitted to either the town and or Mrs. Hoot's. And all 3 of these documents bear the name of what is presumably your business, Max Off Main. Is that your business, Mr. Walker? Am I not asking the right question? Is that your business? And they all relate to funds either you requested reimbursement for or funds you documented. And the address you indicate on all these invoices is a location within the town limits of Irmo, and all these are dated in the month of September 2014. Upon checking with the town business clerk here in Irmo, she advised me that there was at that time, at least at that time, no town business license issued for the business Max Off Main. So the logical conclusion that I drew was that you were conducting business in the town without the required business license. And I've made a complaint about that and asked Mr. Brown to investigate that. Now, one of these documents is, again, from your business Max Off Main, and it's got a notation in the upper right-hand corner that presumably Mrs. Hoots wrote. It says, "Not to be paid. This was sponsorship in lieu of $465.10. Susan," presumably your wife Susan, "would have paid for 20% plus $200 space fee," which, can I help you, sir?
Yeah, I'm Jerome Tyler. I'm the supervisor of this company. Why are you
Well,
going at why are you going at him
It's my
when he
right.
don't own the company?
I have the floor.
He
sir.
do not own
He
the I
confirmed
don't
that.
care, you idiot. He don't own the company.
We need to,
He do not own the company, so why are you going at him?
we have one citizen up here speaking to it.
You'll get a chance to talk. Have a seat and talk.
Apparently, this is for documentation for expenses that you incurred, Mr. Walker, in this agreement between you and Mrs. Hoots that you refer to as a trade-off. And it's an itemization, presumably, of your expenses for providing food and beverage service for the members, for the entertainers. And your total amount, the total order, is listed as $2,068.22. Now, I have some reason to believe or to question that figure because I can't understand why anybody would enter into an agreement to get a waiver for $465.10 in fees and spend $2,068.22 to do that, particularly when I owe the state over $17,000 in taxes. Can you explain to me why you might do that, Mr. Walker? Am I asking the right question? Why would you do that? It makes no sense to me. And moving on to get the final issue that concerns me is yesterday I obtained from the City of Columbia Municipal Court some documents. I obtained these yesterday morning, and according to these documents, Mr. Walker, in 2013 you were charged with assault and battery 3rd degree in the City of Columbia. And according to these documents, you requested a jury trial in that matter. And according to these documents from the City of Columbia, that matter came to trial on June the 3rd of this year. And according to these documents, you were found guilty at a bench trial, and the court assessed you a fine of $1,092.50 or a 30-day jail sentence. And according to these documents, you've yet to pay the fine, at least as of yesterday morning. Can you explain why that is? Do you care to offer any explanation for that? As a lawyer, I'm very concerned. The clerk's office told me that no bench warrant has been issued on this matter. And as a lawyer, I'm kind of mystified as to why the City of Columbia would not issue a bench warrant for a case that's now over 5 months old with an unpaid criminal fine. I don't expect you to answer for the City of Columbia as to why they haven't done that, but I thought I'd tell you that I'm somewhat confused about why that is. The bottom line is, here, Mr. Walker, is that in my view, you have not met my standards to be a public servant in this town and on my payroll, and I would call upon you to resign from council. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to address Irmo Town Council on anything on, whether on the agenda or not on the agenda?
Jerome Tyler, 5735 Bush River Road, supervisor of Mr. Berry's wife company. I would like to tell you, anything that you have to say, the council either, because the bottom line is, we are giving back to the town. Now, if you, anybody on that council, the mayor himself, has a problem, I will call her, gladly have her write a check for the fee. How much is the site fee? $300, $250, $400. That's fine. Then I will ask the town, you or anybody else, to have me a check ready tomorrow by the end of the business day for $2,800. You're not going to get it both ways. We're catering to a rider for groups. We're giving back. It's not going to work both ways. Don't go after him for her company. He just happened to have the pleasure of sleeping with the boss. I work for her. Anything about what we do, what we cater, you come to me. Don't go to him. You ain't got. I don't answer to him.
He answers to me, sir. He's on my payroll.
He's on your payroll.
Yes, sir.
But not for the company you're talking about, not for the mess you're talking about. He's not on your payroll. Anything got to do with his wife company, you come to me. He don't answer that. He don't mean nothing. He just sleeps with her. You can't have your cake and eat it too. We can write you a check for $400, whatever y'all so-called say we compensated for, but have me a check ready by the end of the business day tomorrow for $2,800 worth of food.
I'm going to correct this. You're talking to us. You need to talk to us, not to him. You need to direct your stuff to the council.
Well, he was directing to Mr. Bear. I'm directing to him. And that'll go for the council too. All right. You can write me a check for $2,800. Then I have her write you a check for $400, whatever he's complaining about. But you're not going to get it both ways. We're not going to sit here and cater for these groups, which comes with a rider that I'm pretty sure that you probably don't understand. For us to give y'all a rider $2,800 worth of food, and then everybody ate. Even some people had their grandkids there back there eating. We didn't turn nobody away. You just can't get it both ways. We're trying to look after the town.
Sir, can I ask you a question? And I mean this respectfully.
Mm-hmm.
Do you all have receipts for $2,800 worth of food?
Yeah. Y'all want to see them? I mean, come on. These people ask for organic goods.
There's been some
Listen,
discussion that other people may have paid for the food. That's why I'm asking.
that other people may have done what?
May have paid for the food. I've heard.
I mean, wait a minute. You mean as in brought for the event?
Uh-huh.
No.
Could be gossip. I'm just telling you that we've heard that.
And let me tell y'all something. I don't know if y'all know, I'm a retired bodyguard. I have dealt with these people. Everybody from Taylor Swift, Sean Combs, this rider that these people ask for, the cheapest that I've seen so far in my line, the cheapest, $9,860 in food. What Miss Susan did and the price you got and what these people asked for, they did a tremendous job. She did. I don't see how she did it free. I really don't. Because when they ask for a Pacific this, a Pacific that, that's what they want. If they don't get it, it goes with their contract. They don't have to play. They don't have to do this, and they don't have to give you their money back. If anything, they can turn back around and sue you for breach of their contract. So y'all really need to look at this rider. Just don't look at, okay, this is what they charge. Because when they charge y'all, that rider is with it.
A lot of us didn't see the rider until a few days before the strike, which was a problem.
Every group you get, unless you're local, but each major band is going to come with a rider. Some going to ask for a 5-star hotel. You got to do it. Some going to want chocolate-covered peanuts. They're going to want it. They're going to want hot soup. You got to give it to them. If you don't give it to them, they ain't got to perform. They can turn back around and sue you for breach of contract. And we gave them exactly what they want. One person wanted a specific thing a specific way. That one thing specific way cost us $86 for one person to eat. That's a lot of money. And that's not counting what everybody else wanted. So y'all really need to look at these riders that comes in with these contracts with these groups.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, the next item is executive session, if needed. Anything?
Not present.
Next item then is adjournment. Is there a motion for adjournment? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Um,